Hello and welcome to the LLG vlog. I'm Helen McGrath, LLG's Executive Director of Policy and Governance, and I'm joined as ever by our Bulletin Editor, Dennis Hall. Hello, Dennis.
Hello, everyone.
Well, we know, Dennis, that local government news is all around concerns about audit, Section 114 notices, Section 5 notices, and within the concept of all of that, the background of all of that, what's our discussion this week, Dennis?
Well, I thought we would take a deep dive into best value notices and look at the current position with local authorities. We've covered the stories, as you know, of councils issuing Section 114 notices, but there's another part of the jigsaw that needs to be considered and considered fully, and it's this trend for government to issue best value notices. These notices are another dashboard indicator showing government how councils are performing. And they've been used in a variety of circumstances. And Helen, I've had a quick look at the website and the relevant pages, and it has a list of the local authorities that are currently in receipt of a best value notice. I'll briefly go through the list. We have Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority, and their notice relates to the corporate culture and corporate cultural issues in the organisation. Next in the list is Middlesbrough Council. I know you've referred to this in emails to me, and there are concerns about financial issues at the authority. Next is Eastleigh Borough, and the notice there relates to debt asset management issues. Interestingly, Runnymede Borough Council have significant debt relative to its size. And next we have South Cambridgeshire District Council, which, if you remember from previous issues that I've highlighted in the bulletin, it's about their running of a 4-day week and the controversy around that. You'll remember that Minister Lee Rowley issued warnings to the authority before a best value notice was issued. And finally, we have Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council, and there the notice relates to problematic member relationships that have been poor and relate to councillors and officers as well. So that's the picture as far as these notices are concerned, but there's a lot more to discuss about these, and I know we're about to do that.
Yeah, let's do that. But before we do, if I may, I think perhaps we should set the scene on the best value duty for those people who might not be familiar with it. So the best value duty set out in Section 3 of the Local Government Act 1999, which provides that a best value authority must make arrangements to secure continuous improvement in the way in which its functions are exercised, having regard to a combination of economy, efficiency and effectiveness. The best value duty is relevant to local authority duties to deliver a balanced budget, provide statutory services and secure value for money in spending decisions. Now, also of relevance here is to point out that the government went out for a consultation last year seeking views on statutory guidance for local authorities on the best value duty, and that closed on the 15th of August. We're still awaiting the government's response, but that's where we are presently. So let's take a look at notices, Dennis, themselves and what they mean in practice. So
Indeed.
what does the government say is the main purposes of best value notices?
Well, the government line is that they're committed, of course, to engaging early with local authorities and concerned to better understand the organisational challenges that they face. And indeed, they say they want to support them locally. They want to support locally led improvement journeys. That's what they say, and that's the official message. I suppose another question, Helen, is when are they issued? Well, I've given a flavour in going through the list of the kind of matters that the notices relate to. But where government becomes aware that an authority is exhibiting early indications of potential best value failure, the department will consider issuing a notice to facilitate engagement with the authority and to obtain assurance of the steps it is taking to secure compliance with the best value duty in the Local Government Act 1999.
I suppose the question is, what does aware mean? I mean, evidence of failure, the government says could include sources such as audit reports, complaints, public plans, data submissions, peer reviews and sector inspections. And there is, in fact, a comprehensive list of potential indicators in the draft guidance, which includes sort of the big red flags like a damning audit to signal poor governance. But I suspect that Oflog will have a role to play in this moving forward in relation to service failures.
Exactly. I think we've seen in the reports that I've highlighted in the bulletin that Oflog's role is emerging gradually but I think that they will be able to make comparisons between data that they find in one authority with the general position across the country. And this will alert them to concerns in particular authorities, and that will trigger the issue of these notices. But also, as you say, there will be things that will have gone before within the authorities that are under their focus in the department, such as audit reports, possibly a Section 5 notice, things like that. And I suppose another question that arises is what do these best value notices say or direct authorities to do? Well, the best value notice will state the government's concerns with the authority and set clear expectations of the actions needed to assure the government that the authority is making arrangements to secure that continuous improvement in the way in which its functions are exercised. And also there's a transparency element in this. Government is fully transparent about these notices. They're all on the DLUC website. And as I've explained at the beginning of this item, you can see the reasons why the notices have been issued and the detail of what the notices expect local authorities to do to meet the expectations of the department.
Quite. And I think, if a local authority felt that the best value notice was issued somewhat erroneously or potentially a bit too harshly, it can be, well, you could challenge it, but I'm not entirely sure of the mechanism. I suspect it would be representations to the Secretary of State. But the guidance is quite clear that an inability or a reticence, it says, to acknowledge clear failings and or resistance to external challenge or scrutiny is indicative of itself of a failure to secure best value. And I think the local government information unit refers to the purpose of the best value notice. It is to urge sound governance with accountable usage of public funds. So it seems to me that rather than being horrified by the imposition of a best value notice, actually it could be a useful tool to examine practices within your local authority and change and revisit some of the processes to enable good governance instead of failing governance. Dennis.
Well, indeed. Well, it is a process, of course, and I haven't seen any examples of where challenges have taken place. No. I think authorities have chosen the probably the more sensible path of engaging and getting involved in that process and negotiating a way through it. And in particular, the part that of the notice that's involved with the compliance aspects and what the local authorities specifically are required to do. I think that's where the issues really lie in this process.
Yeah, and there are non-statutory notices as well, aren't there, which might just simply ask for more information and evidence of improvement. Yes. And sort of acts as a warning to the potential for an actual statutory notice.
You're right. And as we've got to take the government at face value on this, they're saying this is something that is a journey that they want to get involved with to assist local authorities in the issues that they face. Although many cynics will say that the government and the financial arrangements for the support of local government lies at the heart of some of the problems that have led to notices being issued in the first place. But we must take government at face value on what they're trying to do here.
No, I think that's right. And although notices generally are for 12 months, they can be extended or rather reissued. And I think that's been the case in respect of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and also Middlesbrough Council, which has had another reissue for 6 months. And I think Max Saul, who is DLUC's Deputy Director of Local Government Stewardship, he has acknowledged the steps the councils are taken to identify the serious issues it's faced, and actually has praised its timely and helpful engagement. But because there's still more work to do to ensure sustained and material improvements, I think particularly around financial sustainability, and I think that's where we're going to see a potential escalation in best value notices moving forward. As we know, there's financial crises, and I understand a number of ministers have recently written to the government about the financial crisis and providing more money to local authorities.
Yes, it's becoming more broadly accepted that there is a crisis here. It's not just about individual authorities. It's not about politics either. The authorities across the spectrum have been involved in issues, whether in relation to the issue of 114 notices, or indeed, as you've seen from the list that I highlighted earlier, there is no political issue here. It's authorities across the board that have been involved in these notices being issued, and the authorities being required to take steps to remediate the issues within their organisations. One thing I would like to say also is that the list that I mentioned shows the breadth and depth of things that the notices can relate to. It's not just financial matters here, it's about relationships. I mentioned Bournemouth with the cultural issues around relationships between councillors and officers, which I thought was a particularly interesting one from that point of view.
I think so. And I was reading over the weekend in the MJ that Alice, the union, is warning of a mental health impact on chief officers responding to inspection reports. And this is coming in the context, I think, of the impact of Ofsted and then how Oflog will play into that and what the triggers will be. Now, obviously, Oflog's not going to have a one-word judgment on a local authority, but I do think that there was really extreme pressures on senior leaders, and I think well-being and the mental health of those people in critical positions does need regard, and they do need to be safeguarded as they try to lead their local authorities through really quite challenging times, Dennis.
Yeah, and for that reason, I think this has to be seen as a support pathway to authorities that are in difficulties, and must be viewed from that perspective by those who receive these notices.
Absolutely. Plenty to think about there, Dennis, as always, and you can be sure we'll be there to guide you through in detail in both the Bulletin and our Grapevine podcast. So on that note, it's goodbye from me.
And from me too.